Okay, so there are only 4 students. Now 5 students have joined. Let us start discussion on the topics. Okay, so shall I proceed? I started recording. I have started recording, and can somebody confirm whether we proceed or whether you want me to wait for some more time? Yes, yes. Please talk to me. Shall we proceed?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay. So, as I said, in today's class, we will discuss some of the very important topics which are quite commonly asked repeatedly in the external examinations. Okay, so at any point, whenever you are getting any doubt, please interrupt me and ask me anything which needs to be repeated. Okay, so as usual, as I said, first of all of you drop your roll numbers in the chat box so that I can consolidate the attendees of today's class, and I can report the same as the list of presentees to the ECE department. Okay, yeah, so fine. Good morning, everybody. So I think I started wishing very late. So I hope everybody are fine. Okay, so since this is a remedial class, as I said, we will not be digging into the the in-depth analysis of the topics, but instead we will take up the focused questions and we will try to reiterate or understand in simple words what is the concept which is associated with each topic and how to formulate the logics. Please be interactive. Okay, so shall I start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who is this? I think it is Dinesh, roll number 7. Yes, no, not yet joined. Okay, fine. So let me throw the questions first. Okay, so please go through the questions once. Notice that in the last class we discussed about the definition of an array, and we have recalled how to read and declare an array, how to access the elements in an array, but before that, how to store the data into the array. So you will be having a for loop, and then you have to write the scanf with starting from index from 0 to n. 0 to n. Okay, so that means 0 to n minus 1 is the number of records, right? So in the last class, we have also discussed about some of the basic fundamental logics without functions to handle 1D arrays, and also without functions to handle the 2D arrays. And we have also understood how the elements of the array are organized in the memory heap, and what is the definition of base address, and what is the definition of offset, and how to retrieve a specific record whenever there is a need to access the data. Okay, now in today's class we will see what is the definition of a pointer. Okay, and then we will also understand the importance of a pointer, right? And secondly, we will look into the fundamental aspect as well as the differences between call by value versus call by reference. So this is one of the very important questions in the exams. And then we will also see how the array is passed into a function as an argument. Okay. Then what are the various dynamic memory allocation functions? Then we will see how to handle the arrays at runtime. So basically the logics will be same as if you do with the static arrays. Only thing is you have to use malloc and then free. Okay. So then how do you do the matrix multiplication using pointers? Can somebody respond? Are you following? Can somebody respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us understand what is the meaning of a pointer. Right? So a pointer is a variable. A pointer is a variable which is actually called as a memory reference variable. Okay. And you can write the definition saying that if there exists a variable which is p such that we declare data type followed by star p, okay, data type followed by star p, and then if there is a data which is, let us say, some variable which is int probably int a, int a is equal to, let us say you have the value of 5. Okay, so pointer will have a meaning only when a pointer is pointing to some valid address. So when you say that p is pointing to address of a, when you say that p is pointing to address of a, then a can be accessible either by using directly a or by using star p. Okay. In other words, the mechanism of retrieving the data, the mechanism of retrieving the data, the mechanism of retrieving the data, not by the direct variable, not by the direct variable, instead by taking the address of that variable using dereferencing star operator is called as a pointer. Okay. So memory wise, if you want to understand, in a program, assume that you already have a variable a whose address is something. Let us say this is 100. Okay, and then the value that I have considered in the example is the value is 5. Then we are defining another variable which is p. It is not star p, it is p. 1 minute, it got hanged. Yeah. So we are defining another variable which is p such that this p here, this p here in this location, this p here, it will not hold the value, but instead it will hold the address. Whose address? A's address. So when you say that I want star p, when you say that you want star p, that means p is holding somebody's address. In that address, what value you are having. This is called as pointer. So let me also repeat. When you are asked to define a pointer, please notice that you have to write all this. You have to write like this. Okay, and also it will be better if you can draw a memory hierarchical diagram like this. Can somebody respond? Are you following? Are you following? Are you following?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me again redefine what is a pointer. So technically, a pointer is defined as a variable which will hold the address of another variable by using which we can access the data by using memory dereferencing operator, which is star. Or in other words, a pointer is defined as the mechanism of reaching the data, mechanism of accessing or reaching the data by holding the address of some other known variable. is called as a pointer. Now, what is the advantage of pointer? Pointers will play a vital role specifically in two cases. Okay, so reason number one is when you use functions. When you use functions, if you use the concept of a pointer, if you use the concept of a pointer, then whatever you are doing inside the function will be getting reflected back. Otherwise, it will not be getting reflected back. Function function. Okay. Are you following? I am completing question number 1. The definition of pointer is clear. Let me again redefine the pointer. A pointer is defined as the mechanism of defining a variable which, instead of directly storing the data, it will hold the address of another variable. It will hold the address of another variable. Okay, and we can retrieve the data which is pointed by that other variable. That is by using dereferencing operator, and this is called as star. Okay, so if putting that in English sentence, if you are finding it very difficult, then you can also write a pointer is defined as a variable p which is declared as the data type with the star p as shown below. Okay, so you can say that int star p. You can even say that int star p is initially pointing to null. Int star p is initially pointing to null. That means initially p is not pointing to anybody. Null means it is not pointing to anybody. Then if there exists a variable int a is equal to 5, so first line is this. Declare a variable int star p is equal to null. Okay, now next line is, if there exists a variable, let us say a, whose value is 5, such that int a is equal to 5, and if we write p is equal to address of a, this is very important. If we write p is equal to address of a, then p is said to be a pointer to a, because p is pointing to the value of a. Okay, so technically the memory organization of this definition is illustrated as shown in the following, as shown in the picture. So you take a variable a, assume that the address is some 100. Okay, so you take a variable p, whose address is some other address. Let us say this is the address at 210. Okay, so a has 5, a has 5, but p was initially pointing null. Now p is not pointing null. At this statement, p is pointing to 100. What is 100? It is address of a. It is address of a. So therefore, p is said to be a pointer to a. So I hope the definition of pointer is clear. Now let us understand what are the advantages of pointers. Please come in and acknowledge any one of you, one or two of you. So notice that the concepts what I am rediscussing in today's class are extremely important, and it will also help you to formulate the logics not only in the course of C but also in C++. Please talk to me.
Yes, sir.
Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Secondly, let us understand the important significance of pointer in computing, that is in both in C as well as C++. Okay, so pointers plays a vital role specifically in two aspects. First aspect is whenever you want to do and achieve something and you want to do data manipulation in a function. Whenever you want to do something by using a function. So in the last class, we have already discussed that if you have a larger computational problem, breaking your larger computational problem into a smaller modules is always much more professional way of coding than coding everything without a function. Okay, so the point is, if you use a function, and if in that function, whatever changes you are doing by taking some formal variables, those changes, if you want to maintain, even though your function dies, then you have to use a pointer. This is what we will demonstrate as question number 2. Let me again repeat. We use pointers for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, when you use a function and when you pass the data, and if whatever you are doing with that data, inside the function, even though if your function dies, that change, whatever you have done inside the function, if it needs to be maintained, then you have to use a pointer. So this is one of the very important advantage of pointer. Okay, so this is where we use the notion or method of call by reference or call by address. So whatever changes that you are doing inside the function will be getting replicated back in the main function. So this is advantage number 1. Now what is advantage number 2? The second advantage and very important advantage is, whenever there is a need to write again a function, such that your function has to handle the arrays. Your function has to handle one entire array. Let us say your array, it could be static array, it could be a dynamic array. Okay, so assume that you are asked to write a C program or a C function to accept 60 elements of your array. Okay, so then you cannot write a function with 60 arguments. Instead, you use the array name, you pass the array name, and we capitalize the advantage of continuous memory of array, so that the starting address of your array is passed to your function, and inside the function you can dereference the element of your array by using a formal variable. You can dereference the elements of the starting element of your array by using a formal array alias variable, and you can reach to any number of record, any place of a record by appropriately multiplying with a number followed by the size of the data type. Okay, so this we will discuss specifically in detail when we discuss the question number 3. Explain how an array is passed into a function as an argument. So let me again reiterate. Pointers are helpful for 2 purposes. 1, if there exists a need to maintain the change that you are doing inside the function, even though the function dies, even though the function execution is completed, if you want to maintain the change, then you have to use the concept of call by reference, and you have to use the concept of the pointer. And the second advantage or the second reason is, whenever there is a need to send the entire array as the list of arguments, we cannot use call by value, because in the case of static array, if your array size is large, then you cannot, or programmer cannot handle by using call by value method. And if the array is dynamic in nature, then programmer at the time of coding doesn't know how many number of records are there in that array. So instead, we use the concept of a pointer. So have you understood all this? If you are done, then we will take up the second question. Introduction of a
Yes, sir.
introduction of a pointer, why pointer is important, what are the two reasons, justification of these two reasons. Clear? Am I clear? Are you following? Please talk to me.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those who have joined a little late, or those who have joined now, make ensure that you are dropping your roll numbers so that I can inform the same to the department. Okay. Now let us focus on the first advantage. What is the first advantage? I said, what is the first advantage of the pointers? I said it is call by reference. If you use the concept of call by reference, then whatever changes you are doing in the function will be getting reflected back. Okay. So now let us rediscuss the same simple example of swapping of two numbers by using call by value and call by reference. Very, very important. See, if you remember the points of the definition of a pointer, then what is call by value, what is call by reference, and how to technically handle the array, how to pass the array as an argument to a function and do some data processing inside the function, you will definitely get 20 marks only in externals. I'm telling 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you remember the concepts and if you try to adopt or apply the steps which I will be telling one by one, you will definitely get 20 marks. You will be attempting total 20 marks of questions, 20 or 23 marks. Okay, so now let me start taking an example of call by value versus call by reference. So if you are asked to differentiate between call by value versus call by reference, point number one, call by value and call by reference are the methods of function calling. Are the methods of function calling. Okay, because usage of functions in a computing problem addresses modularity, or it simplifies a larger problem into smaller sub-problems. Now, call by value and call by reference are the two methods which comes under function call. Which comes under function call. Okay. Now let us understand what is the meaning of call by value. In call by value, we pass only the values of certain known variables. Whereas in call by reference, we pass the address of the variables, not the values. In call by value, we pass values. In call by reference, we pass the address. Are you all listening? Are you all following? Are you all following? Please talk to me.
Following.
Okay, so fine. So let me start taking a Chrome page. Is the Chrome page is visible? Can somebody come in and acknowledge
Sir.
whether the Chrome page is visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir. Visible, sir.
So now let us understand what is the difference between call by value and call by reference. And I will be rediscussing the same function which is swap. Okay, so this is a program for call by value. First, I will discuss about call by value. Okay, so first let me discuss about call by value. So assume that your requirement is to accept two integers and using a function you want to swap the values. You want to swap the values. Okay. So assume that your function name is toSwap. Okay. So you are passing two arguments. What is this? What is this? This function. Function declaration. Now assume that you have two variables, int a and b. Can you please come in? Please acknowledge whether I am audible and whether the slide is, whether the C++,
Audible, sir.
Yes, sir, it's audible and visible.
the GDB compiler is
Sir, clear.
visible.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes.
I think somebody's microphone is on. It is okay. So assume that there are two variables, int a comma b. Okay. Now we will ask the user enter let us say \n. Instead of entering the numbers, why to enter the numbers directly? You can say that a is equal to 2, b is equal to 3. Assume. Okay. Now printf before swapping, the value of a is %d, the value of b is %d, a comma b. Okay. Now I will use toSwap function. I will pass a comma b. This is a function call. This is a function call. And a comma b are actual variables. And this is called by value. You are passing the value. Values of whom? Value of a and value of b. So after calling your function, this function's intention is you want to swap the value of a into b and b into a. That means a has to become 3 and b has to become 2. That is your intention. So what we will do is, assume that your intention is completed in the function, we will say after swapping. This is after swapping the values of a and values of b. Okay, so now let us start writing the function definition. So this is toSwap int x comma int y. Now what is this? Here you are writing function definition. Okay, so function definition carries the logic. Here x and y are called as formal variables. Okay, so I need to swap x and y. So I'll take temp. I'll store temp is equal to x. And I will change x because I have a backup of x. So x will become y. And then y I'll put it as temp. Okay, so what is my intention? My intention in line number 21 is to swap the contents of a and b. I already know the contents of a and b as 2 and 3. I'm expecting after the function call that after swapping, the value of a has to be 3 and the value of b has to be 2. Okay, so let us execute this. But if you execute, surprisingly, you will see that before swapping is a is 2 and b is 3, and after swapping is also a is 2 and b is 3. That means what? If you use call by value and if you pass the values as the list of arguments of a user-defined function, then whatever changes you are doing inside the function by taking those values into the formal variables, whatever you do from line number 7 to line number 13, those changes will be active only as long as your function is alive. Once your function is dead, at line number 13, you are returning back to main. So once you return back to main, the changes will not be reflected. Okay? Following? Now let us also understand technically why is it happening. Why is it happening? Okay. Please respond. Sandhya, Sankirtan, or anybody else. Are you following? Am I audible? 154, Balaji,
Yes, sir.
170, Tarun. Are you all following? Okay, good. Okay. So more than this, the important part is you have to discuss about why the change is not getting reflected. Okay. So for that, what you do is you draw the heap. So assume that this is your heap. Okay. Now assume that this is your address of A. This is your variable A. And then this is your variable B. So let us assume the address of A is 100. The address of B is, let us say, 200. Now in main, the value of A is 2. The value of B is 3. Okay. So value of B is 3. Then you are calling do swap. So now in do swap, it is creating two new variables. So let us assume this is the address of variable X. And let us assume somewhere here you have the address of the variable Y. Let us say the address of X is 300. The address of Y is 400. Notice that when you are asked to discuss about call by value and call by reference, okay, you first write a program like this under call by value. After this, you draw this memory hierarchical diagram. Okay, and probably you can keep an arrow from do swap. So from here to here, when you are jumping, from here to here, when you are jumping, the value of X is equal to 2. The value of Y is equal to 3, because you are copying the values. You are copying whose values? You are copying A's value into X. So X becomes 2 and Y becomes 3. So there is another variable which is temp. So let us assume temp is some other variable here. I don't have a space. I'm just drawing here. Let us assume that the temp address is 500. Assume that the temp address is 500. Now what is happening at line number 10? In temp, that is in 500, you are storing X. What is X? 2. So in 500, you are storing 2. Then what is X is equal to Y? X was 2. So you are deleting this 2 and then you are updating this with 3. So X becomes 3 here, where in line number 11. Next, Y is equal to temp. Y was earlier 3. Now Y becomes 2. Y becomes 2. So your change is happening here, but your change is not happening here. Change is not happening here. Okay, so as long as your function is alive, you have done the swapping, but you have done the swapping of whom? Swapping of X and Y. Who are X and Y? They are formals. Whose formals? A and B's formals. But will they actually represent A and B? No. Why? Because the address of X and the address of Y both are different. So once your function dies, Once your function closes, that means there exists a closing brace which is at line number 13, then all these variables are gone. All this is gone. All this above part is gone. So you still left with A and B. What are A and B? 2 and 3 only. So that's why whatever change you are doing by taking a function and by passing the values will not be reflected back again in main. Okay, so instead of writing all this in English, it is better you write a code, you write the code of swap, you draw the memory organization diagram like this and indicate the arrows and write saying that change is happening at the upper portion, and upper portion will not have any meaning once the program flow reaches back again to main. So therefore at line number probably you can write this as line number equation number 1, and you can probably write this as equation number 2, something like in mathematics. So both in 1 and 2 statements, the values of A and B will be the same. This is the result of call by value. So therefore, the conclusion is in call by value, if we pass the values of the variables, whatever we do by taking some formal variables, the changes will not be reflected back in main. Okay, so am I clear? Now this completes half of the question, because you have discussed only call by value. Please talk to me. Have you understood? Do you want any of the aspect of call by value to repeat? Can you please talk to me? I think I lost the signal. Somebody please talk to me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's,
Yeah, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Is
It's
it-
clear.
Okay, good. Now let us understand. I have also, before I further proceed, I have also told what aspect of the answer needs to be projected. Don't waste your time unnecessarily writing English sentences. Write your code, write the memory diagram, and then put the arrows, and then just tell in 1 or 2 points that this is what is happening, this is what will not happen. That's all is required. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So let us now look in call by reference. Okay, so let me restart the annotation, and before that I also now need to rewrite. Now when you are rewriting, now you remember, you please rewrite the entire program. It's only 5 lines repetition of the code. Okay, so probably you don't take you don't ask the user to print the value of A and B, then print the addresses. All that is required only for your understanding. Okay, so since we have already done this, so as far as answer is concerned, you rewrite the entire thing with the change that I am reflecting now, or that I am suggesting now. I hope the programs and all, I'm not saving it. Okay, so probably if you want better clarity, you can, if you want to revise, I advise you can review the video. Okay, once I start sharing the video, once the class is over. Okay, now this is call by reference. This is also called as call by address. Technically speaking, call by reference should not be used, it is call by address. But in C context, we don't have the reference parameters concept, though it is possible to use. Okay, so we use quite often call by address or call by reference interchangeably. Now, what is the syntax? The syntax is, just now I said, you have to take a point. This is where majority of the students does a lot of mistakes. Okay, so if this is, let us say, for 4 mark questions, if you explain very well about call by value, and if you don't do call by reference properly, you will lose 2 marks, meaning 50% of the marks. Okay, so you have to take a pointer to X, pointer which is pointing to some other fellow, and the location is being named as Y. Now this is temp only. And another mistake here, temp is not X, temp is star X. Then star X is equal to star Y. Then star Y is equal to temp. Okay, then this is same A, B before, but here address of A and address of B. So this is a function call where A and B are the actual variables, and this is not called by value, this is now called by reference. Now called by reference. That's it. This is the program. Okay. Now if I start re-executing the same program, okay, now you can see that before swapping the value of A and B is 2 and 3, and after swapping the value of A and 3 are changed. Okay, probably \n. Are you following? Matladandi, please talk to me. Before swapping is 2
Yes, sir.
and after swapping is 3, 2. Okay. So now what we will do is, again, draw the heap memory diagram. Okay, so assume that this is your memory. Take the same addresses, no problem. Take the address of A as 100. So this is 100. Then this is 200. Then somewhere here it is 300, which is address of X. Then this is 400, which is address of Y. Then this is 500, which is address of temp. Okay, so this is 200, this is 300, this is 400, this is 500. So I am assuming that this is A, this is B, this is X, and this is Y, and this is temp. This is temp. Okay, so the value of A is 2, the value of B is, okay, so the value of A is 2, the value of B is 3. Okay, so now at line number 21, you are giving the address. Okay, so X is now pointing not the value but what is the address? What is the address of A? What is the address of A? Here, this means X is equal to address of A, and what is Y? Y is equal to address of B. Okay, because what are you passing? You are passing address of A and address of B. So X is equal to address of A. Star X is equal to value present at that address. So star X is equal to 2. That is later. But what is X? X is now is equal to address of A. Are you following? Now here X will have not the value, but instead it will have the address. Whose address? A's address. X is pointing to 100. Y is pointing to 200. That is why they are called as pointers. X is pointing to 100, which is nothing but this. Okay. And Y is pointing to 200, which is nothing but this. Okay. Are you following? So far it is clear. Assume that temporary variable,
Sir,
assume that temporary variable address is 500. Now concentrate on what is happening inside the function. So inside the function, in temp, you will have some junk. Initially, this is some junk because you are not initializing it with 0. Okay, so now temp is equal to star x. What is x? X is 100. What is star x? Value present at 100. What is that? What is that? Value present at 100. What is that? What is star x? Star x. 2. Star x will be 2. Okay. So this 2 you are storing. This 2 you are storing in temp. So here. Okay. So here you are erasing this fellow. And then you are storing. You are storing what? You are storing 2 here. Where? In temp. In temp the value is 2 now. Now star x. Star x means x is 100. Star x is nothing but value present at 100, which is 2. Okay. So this you are asking you to change with value present at y. So what is star y? At 200, whatever is the value, that value you take. Are you following? I am repeating line number 11. Whatever is the value which is there, which is pointing by y, that value is 3. Now you store that into value which is present at the address which is pointed by x. The value which is present at the address pointed by x earlier was 2. Now you are changing this to 3. And then in the last statement, you are changing the value which is being pointed by y, which is at 200, which was earlier 3, to be changed with this temp. Okay. So therefore, as a result, in call by reference, because you are giving the addresses and because you are reaching the data, because we are reaching the data by taking the addresses using the memory dereferencing operator star, the swapping will happen perfectly. This is the difference between call by value and call by reference. Are you all following? Please respond.
yes, sir, following.
Okay. So also notice that if a question is asked, justify the importance of a pointer or justify the importance of call by reference or explain the significance of pointers in C or explain the significance or importance of pointers in C++, same answer you can write with this example. There are 2 advantages. I have explained about the first one, which is call by value versus call by reference. Okay. Now let us focus on the other questions. Shall I proceed? That is the second advantage. The second advantage is whenever there is a requirement of passing an entire array as an argument to a function and handle that array inside the function, then you have to use again a pointer. Simple. Second advantage is whenever there is a requirement of passing an array, which could be a 1D array, 2D array, anything. If you want to pass an array and sometimes a string and sometimes array of strings, sometimes structures. What structures? Array of structures. Okay, so if there is a requirement of passing anything which is a combination of arrays, we must use the concept of a pointer. Okay, so let us see how it helps by looking one or two examples of probably implementing a sorting or implementing a sorting by using a function. Now these types of questions, can somebody please come in? Before I further proceed, any doubts, any clarification in terms of understanding of a pointer, and justifying the importance of a pointer in C and C++, both. Only thing is in C++ you use C in and C out. So am I clear? Shall I proceed? Anybody has any other doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir. No doubts.
Okay, so you are all clear in terms of how the answer needs to be reproduced in the exams. Program, write the diagram. Okay, draw the diagram. This diagram, and then if you write arrows like this, and then just on top of arrows, if you write like this, then this tells everything. You don't have to repeat, you don't have to worry about your English. Okay, so focus mainly on the technicality. And then, of course, presentation is also important, but presentation of what? Presentation of the concept. So diagrammatic representation of your concepts will be much more important, or much more, it will communicate well than your written English. Okay. So subsequently, same sort of approach I recommend you to follow even in the course of C++. Fine. So let us let me stop annotation here, and then I'll start switching back to the slide. Now let us see the third aspect. As a part of third aspect, we will now see how to handle a function, a array as an argument into a function, the argument of a function. And subsequently, if you concentrate only one question of this, okay, so if you concentrate only a one simple point of how an array is passed into a function, then I'm also discussing with couple of added lines how to allocate memory dynamically, and then how to create an array at runtime, and anything. Write a C program to create an array of n elements at runtime and do anything. And then this. And finally, if time is there, I'll also discuss how to represent a 2D array by using a pointer. This is one of the standard question. So this is how it looks, very simple. Okay. So let us take up the third one. What I'll do is, I will assume that there is a static array. Let us say A of 5. I'm sorry. Assume that there is a static array A of 5, and then ask the user to enter the elements. Okay. A of 5 or A of 10. Because if I use 5, I'll reduce the time. So I'm taking 5. So assume that the question is like this. Okay, so you declare or write a C program to accept the marks of a student in 5 courses, in 6 courses, okay, and using a function, find in which course the student has got the highest marks, and find in which course the student has got the least marks. Find in which course the student has got the highest marks, and also by using another function, you find in which course the student has got the least marks, and assume that no two scores are same, no two marks of two subjects are same. Am I clear? Anything can be asked. Find the minimum, find the maximum, find the average, find how many courses are the student was passed, or find how many courses the student is fail. Okay, so anything can be asked. Are you following? Please talk to me. Always be interactive. Are you listening? Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Proceed.
Okay, fine. So what I'll do is I'll again switch back to my compiler. Okay, and then let me rewrite the problem. This is program to accept 6 course marks in main, and using functions. 1, print the course number that the student has got highest marks, and using another function you print course number that the student has got the least marks. Okay, so hash include stdio.h. Okay, next hash define maximum 6 elements. Next, void. Now I need to identify the function. See what is the okay, fine. I'll start writing main. Okay, so now I'll discuss with probably m of max. M is marks. I will initialize all my marks with 0. Then I have to ask the user to enter the marks. So for that, I'm taking a loop controlled variable I. What I'll do is for I is equal to 0, I is less than max, I plus plus. Okay, then I'll write printf backslash, okay, fine, backslash n, or enter marks in percentage d is equal to comma I. Anyway, I'll be entering marks of 0, marks of 1, and so on. Okay. Next, what? Scanf percentage d address of m of I. So this is how you read the marks. Okay. So let us display what you have, what the student has got the marks. Okay. So printf the student's marks in all courses are. So in the next line, I'll start displaying I is equal to 0, I is less than max, I plus plus. Then I'll display printf percentage 4d, comma, m of I. So in a array based problem with the functions, starting from line number 10 till line number 21, if you write, you will get 1 mark. If it is for 4 marks. Okay, then identifying the appropriate functions and then passing the array correctly to a function and handling the data inside the function will carry another 1 mark. then logic inside the function will carry another 1 mark. Are you all listening? So till here we have accepted the marks. Note that in scanf you have to write ampersand. In printf you should not write ampersand. It's a serious error. Are you following? Please talk to me.
Following.
Others are not
Yes, sir.
okay. Yeah, fine. So now what? Now I want the course number where the student has got the highest marks. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll define a variable. Let us say marks underscore high. And let us take M1, simple. M1 is highest marks. So I'll use a function, I'll write my own name. For example, get high, get max. You are finding in which course you are getting the maximum number of marks. So what has to be passed? Array has to be passed. What is that array? M elements. M elements. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
So whenever you are passing an array, you have to pass only M. That's it. You have to pass only the array name. Okay, so this is nothing but you are passing. We are here passing the address of M of 0. You are passing the address of M of 0. Now in M1, I'm expecting you will get the index. Okay, for example, if a student has got 71, 90, so whichever course the student has got the highest marks, that course number I will return. For example, if the student has got in the first course itself, I will not return 0, I will return 1. So there are how many courses? 6 courses. So M1 will be the course number. Okay. So therefore what I'll do, I'll write printf /n, the student got high marks in this course, which is percentage D course, with percentage D marks. With percentage D marks. That means what? First percentage D is M1. Second percentage D is in M of M1. Okay. Now this is my function call. This is my function call, which is at line number 22. Now I need to write the function prototype. So what is the prototype? You are returning course ID, data type integer, function name get, max. How many number of arguments? Only one. What are you passing? Array. What are you passing? An array means you are passing the base address. So how do you dereference? By using a pointer. That's it. Okay. Are you following? Are you following? What is this? This is function prototype.
Yes, sir. Sir.
This is function prototype. Now let us write the function definition. So I'll copy the function prototype as it is. Okay, so I'll take a array. Let us say A. Now what is A? A is alias of M. So here you have to find where is the biggest element. So let us assume your biggest element is the first element. Then you start iterating from I is equal to 1 till I is less than max, I plus plus. Okay, so if you get any value of A of I which is greater than A of big, okay, then you change big is equal to I. And then you have to return big plus 1. Anybody has any doubts, you can raise. Okay, so this logic will return in which course the student has got the highest marks. Which course the student has got the highest marks. Okay, so when you are writing the answer, you initially know that you have to write a main. You initially also know that you have to accept the array. So first you think about the function that you are likely to implement. So identify that function name and start writing the function name prototype like this. Then you start writing the function definition. If you are not getting the logic of function definition, don't worry. Just write the function declaration, which is line number 6, and leave some space here. Start writing main. Once you write your main, then probably you will get the logic of writing the function definition. So you go back again, and in the space you start filling it up. Are you all listening?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me start running the program, finding the biggest element. We are finding the biggest element. So here I is not declared. So let me declare I fellow also. M1 error, M1 undeclared. Okay, M1 is also not declared. So let us declare M1 here. Okay, so let us enter some marks. Okay, so assume that student has got like this. So that means in second course he got the highest marks. So if I enter, the student has got the highest marks in 2 and the highest marks is 85. Together, it is not 85. That means there is a bug. 85. Okay. If A of I is greater than big, then big is equal to I. So here you have to return big only because you are printing A of big. So here you have to print M plus 1. Now it will be correct. So let me re-execute. Okay. So I'm taking 67, 89, 97, 68, 45, then maybe 77. Okay, so the student has got the highest marks in third course, marks in 0, 1, 2, 3, third course with 97 marks, third course. Okay. So similarly, if you want to find the minimum marks, only thing is instead of greater than, you have to write less than. Okay. So what has to be done? What has to be done? What has to be done? You have to write another function. Let us assume that the function name is min. Okay, so you use the same sort of logic. Get min. Now here you want small. You can use same variable also, not a problem. Anyway, it is conventional. Technically, you are finding the smallest element. So less than. You follow small. Okay. Now here what? Here what? You use another variable. use another variable, probably m2, get min. Okay, so the student has got the low marks. Low marks in percentage D, comma m2 plus 1 and m of. Okay, so run this. I think m2 is not declared, you have to declare m2 here. Again run this. There is no big here, it has to be small. Now run this.